How's it going, guys? Welcome back to my channel and time for another episode of Luke's Reviews. On today's video, Warner Brothers are putting a spin on the classic Egyptian monster tale, so much so they have slapped that director's name front and center. I guess because if we don't like the film, then at least we know who to blame. This is my review of Lee Cronin's The Mummy. Whilst living in Egypt for work, the eldest daughter of the Cannon family is abducted and sadly not found. 7 years later, dealing with the fallout and moving back to Mexico, the parents receive a phone call confirming that their daughter Katie has been found, and she's alive. The unfortunate news is that she was found wrapped inside an ancient Egyptian sarcophagus, and as the Cannon family quickly discover, this isn't the Katie they remember. First and foremost, I have to address it, the title, Lee Cronin's The Mummy. I don't mean to sound rude or particularly cruel, but why is Lee Cronin's name in front of it, as if presented like he is a immensely well-regarded and iconic director? If Guillermo del Toro does it, that's fine. He's earned it. But Lee Cronin has made one Evil Dead film that was okay. I don't know if he's necessarily earned the having your name in front of the movie type of billing. Having watched the film, I now know why. This isn't your typical mummy movie. No, sir, no Imhotep, no exploring Egyptian pyramids or tombs. This is very much Lee Cronin's own interpretation of a mummy movie, except he hasn't made a mummy movie at all. This is a over 2 hour long Exorcist Evil Dead amalgamation. Sure, there's discussions of mummification and ancient Egyptian curses, but in principle there is nothing that in my eyes can honestly be constituted as being a mummy movie. Predominantly, all that happens is Katie is clearly possessed and wreaks havoc on her family and home. Gross, disgusting havoc. The film opens, I wouldn't say with promise, but at least a level of intrigue, as Katie is abducted and the Cannons 7 years later are reunited with her, and Katie is fundamentally not the same. So they plant that seed of a question. What happened to Katie? Why is she the way that she is? She's in some sort of locked-in syndrome. Her body's all contorted. Her skin is wrinkled. She looks horrific. Like, I will give the makeup team all the credit in the world here. She looks awful. And yet, somehow, the doctors discharge her. The parents are totally fine with that and believe, let's just get her home and everything will be as it was. We have our daughter back. These are, without a doubt, the worst parents I have seen in cinema, maybe since the McAllisters. So clearly you can see how my curiosity quickly diminished because characters within this film made stupid, ridiculous decisions time and time again. I just need to backtrack to the parents for a second because they are almost zombified to the fact that Katie is clearly unwell, even if you just remove supernatural questions from the equation. Like, get your daughter some medical help. That's not, like, a question, surely. But of course, they only realize that this situation is wildly out of control before it is fatally too late. The performances by Jack Reynor and Laia Costa are quite poor. The fundamental situation of being reunited with your years-long missing child is inherently moving, but their acting is very stale and wooden. Much of their time on camera is just reacting to the horror that Katie is causing, and then acting almost oblivious to it as if, oh, this is just her recovering. I'd be okay, somewhat okay, if there was perhaps a story beat that Katie had this magical power to do with like her being mummified and seemingly possessed that was blinding her parents to these acts and almost forcing them to continue to just keep her at home and under their care as opposed to sending her away anywhere else. I'd be somewhat a bit more understanding of that narrative beat, but no, they're just dumb. Natalie Grace plays Katie, and she is very good as the demonic little girl. She is suitably creepy and seems to be gladly up for whatever foul things Katie does. And I also didn't mind May Calamawy's detective, who is set on uncovering the truth behind Katie's disappearance. At least in that way, it felt somewhat like a mummy movie. But whenever we set the focus back in Mexico, my interest grew less the more this movie went on, and boy, did it go on. There is no acceptable reason why this film should be nearly 2 hours and 20 minutes long. There isn't even a scope enough for it to warrant such a runtime. So, what we're inevitably subjected to is just nasty, prolonged sequences of skin peeling, blood flowing, vile cases of body horror. And I'm not particularly squeamish. I can quite comfortably watch a Saw film and not bat an eyelid or feel even the slightest bit of green. And yet, in Lee Cronin's The Mummy, it was just so excessive. And at a point, I just had to sit back and be like, what are we doing? What exactly are we trying to accomplish here? Are we just wanting to be gross for gross sake and nothing remotely serve a purpose? And I do genuinely believe that this is why Lee Cronin's The Mummy doesn't work. It is not a mummy movie. He so very clearly just wanted to make another Evil Dead, but the studio gave him another recognizable IP to work on instead, and by the time we get to the third act, he's just seemingly lost all creative directorial control, and we are back in the realm of an Evil Dead movie with Deadite-like possessions, ridiculous, over-the-top gore. Nothing about the final 20 minutes of this movie worked at all. Excluding the performance from Natalie Grace and some admittedly impressive practical gore, even though it was insanely excessive, I cannot recommend Lee Cronin's Evil Dead Exorcist. I mean, Lee Cronin's The Mummy. Sharing not a shred of identity to anything remotely mummy related, Cronin has crafted a film that revels perhaps too comfortably in the excess and chaos. It's chock full of asinine characters that make every conceivable stupid decision, and a bloated runtime that only serves to torture its audience more. He may have slapped his name in front of this movie, but if Lee Cronin does it in future, I think it should be treated as a warning. So I'm going to give Lee Cronin's The Mummy a 3.5 out of 10. Anyway, guys, those were my thoughts on Lee Cronin's The Mummy. Let me know, have you had a chance to see the film yet? What did you think? Leave your thoughts in the comments below. And my question to you, as I've said, I do not think Lee Cronin was the right fit to make a mummy movie. And whilst we have a fourth The Mummy movie coming with Brendan Fraser, Rachel Weisz returning, and the guys who did the latest Scream movies, not Scream 7, but the good ones. Excluding that, if we are just treating a mummy horror movie, who would you like to see in the director's chair? But that is all the time we have for today. So thank you very much for watching. Make sure to like and subscribe, and I will see you in the next video. Hello, thank you so much for watching. I hope you enjoyed the video. If you have, make sure to click that like button, and if you aren't already, click that subscribe button too.